Hello students, hello grade 8/1. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, teacher.
All right. So for today we will have a new topic. Okay. So the last time we had that geometrical construction. Okay. So I guess that was just a very light topic in which we are to use the geometry sketchpad, but instead we were using set square, protractor, and ruler. All right, because we will be doing the workbook. Now, last meeting also we do draw. All right, triangles, and all about we can have also parallel lines, perpendicular lines. Okay, so that was all about geometrical construction. But for today, we will have a new topic. All right, and this topic is quite, it's not really that difficult, but quite difficult because this will connect with our learning on polynomials. All right, okay, the previous semester that we had, we were solving polynomials by factoring method. Okay, so we put those polynomials as a factor of the other. Okay, and we have learned also linear equations. Linear equations is when the highest power or degree is only one. Okay, polynomials will have many degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree, and so on, because that was polynomials. But for now, we will have quadratic equations. All right, solving quadratic equations, and that will be chapter 4 of your book. Now, this quadratic equation is also a kind of polynomials, but the highest degree or the highest exponent or power of a variable is 2. Okay, so linear equation, power is 1. Quadratic equation, the degree or the highest power is 2. Polynomials, you can have a degree of 3, 4, and so on. 3, 4, 5, and how many degrees for polynomials. But basically, it will just be similar. Okay, so let us now start with this topic in chapter 4, solving quadratic polynomial equations. Okay, all right, so that is a unit 4 in our book. Okay, now we have learned already factoring. Okay, so basically that will apply in the topic today because we will be factoring also equations. And we said that in a linear equation, the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. That is same. That will be true also with quadratic equations. We must see to it that we can balance the left-hand side of the equation equals the right-hand side of the equation. Okay, and then for us to know what is really a quadratic equation. Now take note, quadratic equation. Okay, so please read what is quadratic equation. I start with you, Grace. All right, Grace, please read. What is a quadratic equation?
Quadratic equation is a polynomial with second degree exponent is 2 and there is an equal sign.
It follows?
It follows the standard form ax 2 plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay,
so this is quadratic equation, and we learn in a polynomial that a polynomial is made up of many terms. Poly means many, nomials means terms. So therefore, many terms. Now in here, in a quadratic equation, it is still a polynomial composed of many terms. All right, so we have the first term in the example, the standard form, EX squared, that is one term, BX, that is second term, C is the third term equals 0, so fourth term. So that means it is also made up of polynomials, okay? Made up of different terms. Now take note that there should be an equal sign. When we say equation, should have equal sign, because if it doesn't have an equal sign, that means it is only expression. Okay, expression is made up of terms but incomplete because it doesn't have equal sign. Okay, so we learned that one in our topic about polynomials: term, expression, equation. Term is only single. Expression is made up of two or more terms separated by positive or negative sign. All right, so that is expression. And equation is made up of expressions with the equal sign. All right, and quadratic equation follows a standard format: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. All right, so a should not be equals to 0 in that case. And we remember in our polynomial, a is the coefficient of x. All right, again, a is the coefficient of x. B is the coefficient of the variable x. All right, so that is to refresh our knowledge. Now, example, ex squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we can have the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 15x plus 18, where we have now the coefficient 2, coefficient of variable x, 15, coefficient of variable x. All right, so that is quadratic equation. Now, okay, please continue reading, Haruka. Solving quadratic equation.
Solving quadratic equation is determining the value of the variable or unknown that satisfies the equation. This is known as the root of the quadratic equation.
Okay, so solving quadratic equation is to determine or to get the value of the variable or unknown. Okay, so again, what is that variable? That is the unknown. In the example above, x is the unknown, x is the variable. Now, to solve quadratic equation is that we find a number that will satisfy the equation, and we call that number as the root of quadratic equation. Now, what do we mean by the root? Take note, that is the value of the unknown, and it should satisfy the equation. What do we mean by satisfy the equation? We said that a quadratic equation will be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So therefore, your x should satisfy the left-hand side. In this example, left-hand side equals the right-hand side. So that means the root should give us the equality of the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So therefore, in the end, when the quadratic equation is simplified by determining the root, it should be at the end 0 equals 0 in this example, because we have here the left-hand side equals the right-hand side. Now, if it is not equal, then it is not the root. Okay, again, if the left-hand side of the equation does not equal to the right-hand side of the equation, then it is not the root of that quadratic equation. It should satisfy. It should be left-hand side equals the right-hand side. If the right-hand side is 0, so left-hand side should be 0. If the right-hand side is 20, left-hand side should be 20, so that we are satisfying the equation, the equality of the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Okay, so that is what we mean by solving quadratic equation. We find a number, we call the root to satisfy the equation. Okay, next. All right, so determining the root. Determine if each of the following is the root of the given quadratic polynomial equations. Example, x squared minus 2x equals 15. Left-hand side, x squared minus 2x. Right-hand side, 15. Now, if you are given the value of 5, is 5 a root of the equation? How to do? We substitute x, or we substitute the value of x, which is 5, into the equation. So therefore, x squared means we know x equals 5. So therefore, 5 squared minus 2 times 5 equals 15. All right. So therefore, you have now there 25. 5 squared is 25 minus 2 times 5 is 10 equals 15. Thus, you have now 15 equals 15. So that means we satisfy the equation. 5 satisfies the equation. So therefore, 5 is a root of the equation. So that is the value of 5. It is the root. All right. Taking the second example, take a look and compare 2x squared minus 27 equals negative 3x. Given that x, the value of x equals negative 2. So let us try to check whether negative 2 is a root or not. So we substitute negative 2 into x. So therefore, you have now 2 times negative 2 squared. So 2x squared, 2 times negative 2 squared minus 27 equals negative 3 times x, which is negative 2. All right. So negative 2 to the power of 2 equals 4. So therefore, you have now, so to make sure, okay, negative 2 to the power of 2 is negative 2 times negative 2, which is now positive 4. All right. So therefore, you have now 2 times 4 equals 8 minus 27 equals negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. So therefore, you have now negative 19, 8, positive 8, and negative 27, remaining is negative 19, which is not equal to 6. Left-hand side is not equal to the right-hand side. So therefore, negative 2 is not a root of the equation. Okay? So that is how to determine whether the given value of the variable is a root or not a root of the equation. Okay? We just simply substitute the value into the equation and check whether the left-hand side equals the right-hand side of the equation. Okay? So that is determining the root. Now, how to solve then so that we can get the root? How to solve quadratic equation so that we can get the root? Now take note, we have 4 ways to solve quadratic equation. All right. One is by factorizing method. So what does it mean, factorizing? It means factoring. We put, okay, we find the factors of the equation. Okay, just like the example 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. So we will factor it out so that we have now 2x plus 1. The factors are 2x plus 1 and x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so again, we should equal it to 0 when we are to get the root. Should equals 0. And then simplify, just like a linear equation. So 2x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So to get the value of x, since it is equals to 0, then 0 minus 0 minus 1. Or to simplify, you have there x equals 1 divided by 2, negative 1 over 2. Or x minus 3 equals 0. X is, we transpose negative 3, becomes positive 3. So therefore, x is equals to 3. So that is by factoring. Now, furthermore, all right, that is the first way, by factoring method. And we have the second way by using the quadratic formula. Okay, using quadratic formula. Now, in our book, we do not have solving quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So we focus on factoring and completing the square. Now, take note, quadratic formula follows the formula, which means minus b or negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so what does it mean? That formula uses, okay, that formula uses the value of a, the value of b, and the value of c, which is the constant or the number in that formula. Again, the formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So again, take note, this is your a, this is your b, and this is your c. Okay, so it will be used in solving using quadratic formula. All right, and the third way is by completing the square. Okay, that one, that example is completing the square, where we squared the second. Okay, the first and the second term, we put the value and then make it squared so that we can extract the value of x in that equation. But anyway, we will be solving that one. So that is the third way. And the fourth way is by using a graph. So we call that one as graph of functions. But we will not have it today. That will be for grade 9, graph of functions. Okay, solving using the parabola that opens upward or opens downward. So that is for grade 9. So we focus on number 1 and number 2 by factoring and by completing the square. Okay, so those are the 4 ways to solve quadratic equations. All right. Let us now try to factor out. We recall our knowledge in factoring polynomials. Okay, so the basic, for example, we factor out a squared in a polynomial. So a square is a product of a times a. All right, so that's very basic. That's very basic. Or for example, we have there 4x squared. Okay, if we factor it out, so we can have the factor of 4x squared. We can have 2x and 2x. So that is a factor of 4x squared. Or we can have also 4x and x. All right, so this is the basic in factoring, meaning we put it into a product of two numbers so that we can get the number that we are going to factor out. Okay, now who can recall x squared? What is the fact, or what are the factors of x squared plus 9x minus 10? Okay, before we start discussing, okay, can someone tell me the factors of x squared plus 9x minus 10? You can unmute and tell me. Take note, there are two factors of that. So factors of x squared and factors of 10. And make sure that your first and third term, you can get the value of the middle term. Okay, so we have that one in polynomial. So can someone factor out x squared plus 9x minus 10? All right, Haruka, Grace, Poon, Baikau, Odi. All right, Pepe. Okay, try to factor out the first one, x squared plus 9x minus 10. All right, so Haruka sent a message and the answer is x plus 10 and x minus 1. Okay, so let us try to check x plus 10 and x minus 1. All right, so that was correct. Take note that when we factor out the first and the last term, we make sure that we can get the second term. Okay? So if we multiply that one, x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. 10 times x is, okay, we try to simplify so that others can remember. Okay, so if we try to multiply that one, x times x is x squared. 10, x times negative 1 is negative x. 10 times x is positive 10x. All right, and 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. So we simplify, you have negative x and 10x, so that it will be equals to x squared. All right, plus 9x minus 10. Okay, so that is how to factor it out. All right, very good, that was correct. Next example, 9x squared minus 4x. Odi, what are the factors of 9x squared minus 4x? Only two terms.
X
Times 9x
minus 4.
Minus 4. All right, so if we try to check. Okay, x times 9x minus 4. So we take out the common factors of 9x squared and 4x. So the common 9 and 4, they don't have common factor. So we have only x and x. So therefore, we can take out the common factor x, and then the remaining is 9x. All right, minus 4. Okay, so that was good. Next, 1 minus 25y squared. By Baikau, what are the factors? 1 minus 25y squared. By Baikau. Take note, those are squares. Okay, 1 can be squared. 25 is it can be also squared, and y can also be squared. So those are perfect square numbers. All right, Baikal, what is your answer? All right. Yes. 1 minus and 1 plus. Yes, Baikal. Okay, I will go back to you later. What about Poon? What is the answer? 1 minus 25y squared. Factor it out. Poon? Take note, that is just easy. All are perfect squares. So, yes, Poon.
1 times 1 minus 25 y raised to the power of 2.
Yes, if you factor it out, what is the answer? All right, take note, you can factor out. Okay, so almost, Poon, almost. What about Grace? What is your answer? Grace. Yes, Grace, what is?
1 times 1 minus 25y.
You can factor out 25 and you can factor out y also. So you can have this term. Okay, Pepe, what is your answer, Pepe? Pepe, what is the answer? Okay, take note, that is a perfect square. So that means it is easier to factor it out. Okay, so that will mean 1 plus 5y and 1 minus 5y. So those are the factors of 1 minus 25y squared. Okay, so again, you can factor out 1 is a product of 1 and 1. 25y is a product of 5y and 5y, and you take note the sign. Okay, so that is negative. So those are a product of, or difference of squares. All right. So those are difference of squares. Next, 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. All right, if we factor it out, the answer would be 2x minus 3 and x plus 4. All right, so if we simplify to check, so you have here 2x times x is 2x squared. Okay, and you have here 2x times 4. Okay, so plus 8x. And then 3x, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And then negative 3 times 4 is negative 12x. So therefore, this is x. So therefore, you have now 2x squared. All right, plus 5x minus 12. All right, so that is just basically the same when we are to solve for the quadratic polynomial. We only use factoring method and put our equations to 0 and then find the root. Okay, so to make the equation true so that it will be 0 equals 0. So what are the values then? X plus 3 and x minus 2 equals 0. So to make it 0, x will be negative 3. So negative 3 plus 3, so 0. X minus 2. So your x should be 2, so that 2 minus 2 is 0. So therefore, 0 equals 0. So it is important that we can get the two values of the equation. Take note, two values, but we can use or, because we can use either one to check if our equation is true. Okay, if there are two values, we can use either of the values so that we can make the equation true. So that's why it is important that we use the word or, not and. Okay. Now, for example, we have here, if we are to solve 20x plus 5x squared equals 0. All right. Now, get the value of x by factoring. So you have there 20 plus 5x, 20x plus 5x squared. If we factor it out, 5x times x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, separating the two. So you have now 5x equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. Simplify. All right, so if we simplify the left-hand side of the equation, so negative 5 divided by 5 and 0 divided by 5 is 0. X plus 4. So we transpose positive 4 to the left and to the right, that becomes negative 4. So therefore, x equals negative 4. Or simply we can minus 4 here and then minus 4 also. The same way we can cancel out 4 and x equals 4. So these are now the values of the unknown. So those are now the roots of the equation. All right. Next example before we go to the task. Negative 7x squared minus 14x equals 0. So if we factor it out the same way, 7x times x plus 2, and all we should put in the expression equals 0. So again, when we simplify 7x, so to find the value of x, divided by 7, then divided by 7, so therefore x equals 0. Or the second value, x plus 2, transpose becomes negative, so therefore x equals negative 2. Okay, so that is by factoring method we can get the value of the equation or the root of the equation. Now what about this one? Now take note here that before we factor it out, we should put the expression into equals 0. Okay, so that is why we have now x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Again, we should simplify further this one so that it will be equals to 0. So therefore, we transpose 15 to the left-hand side following the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So that is why we have now this equation. And then we factor out x plus 5 and x minus 3 equals 0, or x equals negative 5, x equals 3. And those are the roots of the equation. Okay? So again, it is just a matter of simplifying and factoring out the quadratic expression so that we can get the roots or the value of the unknown. And take note, it should be equals to, that should be satisfied, that would satisfy the equation, and left-hand side should equal to the right-hand side. Okay, so we have only 2 minutes left. Okay, so these are some examples where we can get the value of x. When we put it to 0, so therefore x equals 1 and x equals negative 2. So that means we just negate, or we just get the value of the opposite. X minus 1, so the value is x equals positive 1. X plus 2, so the value is x equals negative 2. Okay, so that is just simply finding the negate or the opposite. Okay, so those are some examples and we don't have much time. And for our task, all right, it will be on page 44 and 45. That is by we identify whether it is a root or not. And then the next numbers will be factoring out the equations or expressions. All right. So I think you can do it now. I think that will be your task because we have only 1 minute left, so we cannot solve it more. So please do page 44 and 45 and then take a photo of that one and send it to the group. Okay, so I will strictly check now the activity. All right, so please solve exercise 4.1, page 44, 45. Okay, so thank you so much guys for participation and hope you learn. Okay, and hope you can now be able to identify whether it is a root or not, or you can now factor out the quadratic equations. Okay, so thank you so much guys and see you on the next. Okay, thank you so much.